Hello everyone, welcome to the session Object-Oriented Programming through Java. Myself Navya, I am an assistant professor from the Department of CSIT, Nirmala Institutions of Technology. Today we are going to discuss generics in Java. In the previous session, we have seen what is collection and what is a collection framework, what are the classes and what are the interfaces undergoing in the collection framework and which are under java.util package. In this session, we are going to see what is generics in Java and what are generic methods and what are generic classes and related example programs of this. Coming to the generics in Java. So Java generics. So generics has been introduced in C++. Okay, so what is generics? Familiarly, it was a language feature that allows you to create methods and classes which can be handle any type of data values. You can say generics can handle any type of data values that would be implemented using by creating methods and classes. Here we are going to write the generalized programs. Java supports Java generics. And here we have seen, I already said you, Java generics has been introduced in C++ programming language, which would be more similar to Java. And here what are the important points you can have is, most of the collection framework classes are generic classes. That's why we are going to introduce generics before collection framework classes. And Java generics allows non-primitive type. It does not support primitive types like integer, float, character, etc. Before generics, we have to store any type of objects in a collection like non-generic. Now generics force the Java program to store specific type of objects. So these are the type parameters which we can discuss here. So T, we can say T is nothing but type, E is nothing but element, K is key, N is number and V is value. So we are going to see these are the parameters which you, in order to use the generics, these are the type parameters you have to learn. And we are going to use these type parameters in angular brackets. Okay, and this was introduced in Java 1.5 version only, and this feature was implemented using the following, which is generic method and a generic class. So using generic methods, you can use generics, and using generic class, you can use the generics. Coming to the generic methods. If a method is, for example, if I just want to add two numbers. So I just want to have addition of two numbers. What addition of two numbers I can have? I can add two integer values, isn't it? Two float values. Two characters I can append, and two double values, or two long int values. I can add any two. I just want to write addition of two numbers, might be work on two integers, two float, two characters, two strings, or two double, as well as two integer values. Anything I can have. So we are going to write a program, or we are going to write a method which is generic method. The Java generics allows creating generic methods which work on a different type of data values. We are going to write one code which can be applicable for all of this. Okay, so we can create a single method that can be called with the arguments of different data types. Based on the types of arguments passed, the generic method, the compiler handles each method call appropriately. So this was an example program for the generic method. I just want to display the data and what type of data it is, and what was the name of the data. See here, it's a generic method. So what is T, type of data, and U is some values. So display data is my method name, which consists of two values, one type of data and second type of data here, and I am printing plus value dot get class, which class it belongs to and what was the name of that particular data, and get class and value too. So here I am creating an object for this particular file, this particular class Here display date of 45.6f and 10 is my second value. So what type of data you will get? It's an import.java.lang package was a class, as well as 10 is my, what was a 10? 10 is the name of the, what is this integer and float value you will get. And in the same way, I am giving 2 integer values and 1 string and 1 character value. Let us execute this program so that you can understand what is this. This is the generic functions. So when I execute it, say what was the first values we has given? 45.6f and 10. So what was I got is java.lang. It's in float, as well as what is this java.lang integer value. In the same way, 10 it's an integer, and whereas the third one high and I has given the c as in arguments. So java.lang.string as well as java.lang.character. So it will return you this one method is working for all the different types of data here. So this is all about generic method. Coming to the generic class. Instead of generic method, instead of a single method, if you convert the complete class into generics, you are going to call that class as a generic class. So a generic class can be defined as defined as a generic class that allows creating the class that can work on different types. Okay. So a generic class declaration look like a non-generic class, normal declaration only, but what differs in it is except that class name is followed by a type parameter section. So you will have the angular brackets with type. That's it. That was the difference between a normal class and a generic class. Here is an creation of generic class here. Class mygen is my class name and t type of parameters you are going to pass. So t object, and you can have t and object, and this dot object is get and return object. So here the t refers to type of data. It might be any type of data. It might be integer, float, or it might be an string or character, anything. Coming to the example program. This is an example program. Here public class generic example is my class name. How could you say it's a generic class? Because as we are having type parameter within angular brackets, we are going to say that particular class is a generic class. Okay. And t object as this type of data which you are passing as per whatever the arguments you are passing or whatever the inputs you are passing, through that inputs you are going to execute that parameter. So you are creating an object for that particular type. And generics example, the same constructor here, I am creating a constructor t, another object, this dot object equals to another object. And next t get data, you are returning the data here. Coming to the main function, here in the main function, generic example, I am taking the parameter, type parameter as integer here. Whenever you are going to create an object for the generic class, you has to give the data type here. Okay, integer, object 1, and I'm giving the value as it was in parameterized constructor. For the parameterized constructor, I'm giving the value as 100. And get data, it will return you the data of 100 here. In the same thing, I'm creating object 2 also with the different type, which is string. I'm passing Java as my parameter, and here in return you will get Java. And the third object I am creating using float. Okay, and I am giving 25.9f. Here you will get 25.9f. So here there was one class. I am creating different 3 objects of different data types. So one is integer, one is string, and one is float. So let us see the working of this. Okay. See here, what was the output I have got is 100 Java as well as 25.9. So, in order, if you are giving the value here, whatever the value you are giving, it might be an integer, it might be a string, it might be a float, or it might be a character, or it might be a double, anything that whatever you are creating using that, you the single what a single method can accept any type of data is generics. Whereas the whole class is working on the same generics, same type, any type of data you can go with, that is generic class. Coming to the advantages of generics. So, what are the advantages of generic? The first major advantage is type safety. So, how can you say it's in type safety? Because it's in one of the most significant benefits of using generics is this, it enhances the type safety of your code. So, whatever the data, if, for example, if I'm a person, I'm using some program, okay, I has to give integer value. What happens? Integer value. Instead of integer value, I am giving the float or double. So, it was not accepting. So, it might get irritated to the user, right? So, when it was like applications. Here, if you use the generics, it has whatever the data you are giving, it will accept and it will convert to the Excel. So, with generics, you can specify the type of data that a class, method or interface can work with. And this ensures that only specified data types are passed to the code and preventing runtime errors and improving the reliability of your program. So, it prevents runtime errors for sure. I can pass any type of data as inputs so that it can prevent the runtime errors as well as it improves the reliability of the code and you can pass any type of data. Second one is code reuse. So, here generics in Java allows you to write code that is more reusable for sure, because you are writing one code you can use for multiple data types. You can use that code for multiple data types. Like method overloading, method overriding. What happens in the method overloading? You are writing the same code for different data types, right? So, what happens based on the type of parameters and like that, it would change. But here, you are writing for addition of two numbers. You are writing the code for addition of two numbers that can work on any type of data. Okay. So, by specifying a type parameter in a generic class, method or interface, you can create the code that can work with multiple data types. That code can be work with multiple data types, and this reduces the code duplication and improves code maintainability and makes your code more efficient. And the third one is compile time checking. Compile time checking is also one advantage of generics. Here, it enables the compile time checking of your code. That means that errors can be detected early in the development process rather than at runtime. Instead of at runtime, you can detect this process earlier, and this not only improves the reliability of the program but also saves the time and effort of debugging. And the next advantage is improved performance. Using generics, you can improve the performance of your program. The compiler can optimize your code. Coming to advantages of generics. First advantage is type safety. So, what is type safety? It enhances the type safety of your code, because instead of writing different codes for different data types, you are writing for one code for different data types, isn't it? So, you can specify the type of data class, method or interface can work with any type of data. And this ensures that specified data types are passed to the code and preventing runtime errors and improving the reliability of your program. So this is in type safety is one of an advantage of generics. And next, code reusability. Instead of writing n number of times that code, you will write the code once and that could be used for n number of times. So generics in Java allow you to write the code that is more reusable. By specifying a type parameter in generic class, method or interface, you can create the one code, and that could be work with multiple data types. So this reduces the code duplication and improves the code maintainability and makes your code more efficient. And the third one is compile time checking. Instead of runtime checking at the time of compilation itself, you can check the code rather than it might save you the time efforts. Another significant advantages of using generics in Java is that enables the compile time checking of your code. So at the time of compilation, you are going to check that code, which means that if any errors are detected early in the development stage only, rather than at runtime. Rather than the runtime, at the time of compilation itself, you can detect the errors earlier. This is not only improves the reliability of the programs, but also saves time and effort in debugging. And the next advantage is improved performance. So you can, using generics in Java is also used to improve the performance of your program. The compiler can optimize your code. So you are optimizing your code, because if you are writing n number of data types, if you are writing a single program writing for n number of for addition of 2 numbers, I can write a code for integers and a code for float and code for some double, like that. So if I'm writing 3 methods for particular data type, instead of writing 3 codes, you can write one method that could work for integer, float as well as double. So that you can say it can optimize your code and reducing number of caches and improving overall performance of your program. And the next one is greater flexibility. So you can say generics in Java provide greater flexibility in your programming by allowing you to specify type of data in a class or method or interface that can work with. It can be possible to create high adaptable and flexible code. And this is especially used when working on complex data structures like linked list for linked list or queues or stacks that could be worked efficiently. And when you need to write the code, that could be worked with multiple data types. And better documentation. Finally, it can improve the documentation of your code by specifying type parameter of a generic class, method or interface. You can make it clear that other developers may not confuse or with the particular data type's return type or the type of data. Instead, if you write a type parameter, that could be work on with any type of data. So what data types the code has worked with. And this makes your code readable as well as easier to understand and more maintainable. So better documentation is also one of the advantage of generics. And avoiding casting. So instead of, this is used to allow you to avoid casting, which is the main source of bugs and others in Java. So if I has created the data, I just casting from one data type to another data type. Implicitly it can be done, but instead of that, you can it can avoid casting by specifying the type of data of the class, method or interface that work with. Generics eliminate the need of casting and making your code concise, readable and maintainable. And the next one is easier debugging. So it helps you to easier, instead of integer values. For example, if I have created the variables like integers, int a comma b, and I'm using the float. So I'm just converting that into float in the rather sections. What helps? It might get confused and it might get errors. So instead of that, if I have taken the type parameter, what are the data you are giving, that works on the same parameters. So by providing more information about the data types that your code work with, generics can help you to identify errors and bugs more quickly and accurately. And it can be save your time and effort in debugging process as well as overall quality of your code. The lost advantage is interoperability. Interoperability is nothing but generics is in Java also make it easier to write the code that could work with other Java libraries and frameworks. By using generics, you can ensure that your code is compatible with other Java code that use generics, make it easier to integrate your code with other softwares and systems. So these are the advantages of generics. So in this session, what you have learned is generics. What is generics? Generics are the feature which exists in C++ rather later on introduced in Java, which you can see you can use any data types. We'll write code once that can be usable for any data types. That could be work with n number of data types. And data types generics is implemented by using two. One is generic method and the other one is generic class. If a single method is implemented generics, that particular method can be implemented with any type of data, whereas the complete class is implemented using generics. We can use that using type parameters, and we can use the particular class, the complete program, using generics. You can supply any type of data that works with the code. And we have seen how you are going to create generic method and generic class. And at last we have seen the advantages of generic class. This is what all about today's session. Thank you everyone.